Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of what can we call it, really? I mean, the channel is called Mark Isaac Potter Presents, and this time we're going to do some autobiography. So, in this series, I pick something from my own personal life and tell the story of it. Uh, see, so when I went to college at Bowling Green State in Ohio, the first year that I went, I'm not taping the time. First year that I went to a very lovely community college that was part of Bowling Green State, like a satellite. It was in here in Ohio. It was called Firelands Community College. And I really liked it. I think it was fairly new, maybe even brand new. It was like two buildings out in the cornfield, and I just really liked it. I liked my professors. I had a poetry literature professor named Dr. Joel Redinger, and he was a wonderful man. I learned a lot about poetry from him. He's of course passed away now, but bless his heart, he was wonderful. So I was there the first year, and the second year I transferred to the main campus. That 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 thing transferring plus several other components that I'm going to mention were very traumatic. Caused me to be, I don't know, freaked out, upset, whatever. So one thing that happened there was I got into the quote unquote busy metropolitan type world for the first time. Even though, from a New York standpoint, that's still a hick town, but for me, it was big. Another component, that's component number, what, two? Number one was going there in the first place. Number two was the metropolitan nature of the campus. It was bigger than anything I'd seen. And another component was I talked to one of the graduate students. I made friends with a graduate student. And I was trying to get a BA in, I think, psychology or literature. And he said, no, if you want to really succeed in life, you need to get a Bachelor of Science. Well, I very mistakenly took his advice. And also, for some unknown reason that I will never understand, I decided to take classes that were above my pay grade, so to speak. So instead of taking sophomore classes, I took senior level research classes and stuff like that. The other thing that was happening at that, so that's number three. Number four was another thing that was happening is I was working on the weekends about 90 miles away in Sandusky, Ohio, as a fry cook on the graveyard shift. So I would drive from campus on Friday, get to work Friday night, Saturday night graveyard, and then Saturday, Sunday graveyard, and I get off at 6 or so. And then I would drive not the 90 miles back to Bowling Green. And my first class, one of the semesters, was a calculus class at 8 a.m. with a lovely, very smart mathematician whose English was, shall we say, challenged. And I certainly failed miserably at that class for so many reasons. And the other thing, so that's like number four or five. And the next one is that I got involved with campus activities. I had been almost kicked out of high school for writing a paper on the Black Panthers, and I was interested in what happened to Mark Clark and Fred Hampton in Chicago. So I hung around the guy on campus who was distributing the intercommunal news service, which was the Black Panther Party paper. And so I would hang around with him and talk with him. And I don't know that I really did much for him or anything, but he invited me to a, believe it or not, he invited me to a Black Panther Party meeting when he said was at Door Street in Toledo. I started it, and in a different story, I'll say that I drove halfway up there and then turned around. But that's a story for another day, or maybe even today if I get there. The point of all that was all those factors together. I dropped out of college at the end of my sophomore year and went on the road, so to speak, hitchhiking uh, for a while. I don't know. Sometimes I think it was weeks, sometimes I think it was months. I experienced it as months, but I don't really think it was months. I think it was like weeks. It's hot in the summer. It was lovely. I wound up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I lived there for a year and a half. And Phoenix was a great place. I have lots of wonderful memories. Uh, I lived part of the time I lived on 16th and Thomas in a very dilapidated board and care type place. Uh, Part of the time I lived in a Lutheran church on, I want to say McAllister, but I'm not sure it was on McAllister. And I want to say it was St. John's Lutheran, perhaps. And I worked at a restaurant called Hobo Joe's, which even though it's no longer there, is does still have a little presence on the internet with its history. So it was rather fondly thought of. And I have several funny stories about that place, like I'll call the pancake story. So I should tell you the pancake story sometime, and I should tell you whatever other story I was trying to remember to tell you. So that's it for this one. I think I'll shut this down and then maybe do another autobiography or not, depending on how I feel in the next few minutes. I love you guys dearly, and I will talk to you soon. Please take care, okay? I always turn my head, although now the thing is having me turn it a different way, which I don't particularly like. I don't know why. I can't find the mirror function to stop that.